noises in the background. We have a Chihuahua who's like 300 years old, and we have an Airedale Terrier who thinks she's a human 3-year-old all the time. And when I'm being recorded and the terrier can overhear me, she likes to make comments now and again, mostly just to whine and let me know how bored she is. So if you hear that, I'm not torturing anybody. It's the dog trying to act like she belongs. Okay, well, today I want to, what we have is somebody has turned in the peer critique and self-critique, and somebody has turned in the first of the PowerPoints of their research artist. And I wanted to share those. I wanted to look at, we've got another wire sculpture that was turned in, and I want to look at that. But I also want to look at each of the structure and skin things now that we've seen them. And hopefully you guys who have were with me last week, we can look at the other ones. And I wanted to remind everybody that the reason we do this, we have the due date and then we talk about it right before the due date and then after the due date so that we have things to look at. And then you can always rework it and resubmit. I do not have any problems. You could resubmit a dozen times if you want to. And I have had people who have done 4, 5, or 6 resubmissions. That's not a problem at all. And the reason I do it that way is we do not have everybody showing up to lives, because most of us have other jobs with schedules that conflict, and we're all watching the recordings, and that is one big reason. But I think the main one is the fact that we're not in a live classroom setting, and I can walk around and look at each sculpture while you're working on it, makes it so that I've got to do it this way so you guys have a fair shake. Because if you don't get perfect points, I want you to have opportunities to improve on whatever you've done so you can get the greater amount of points. And sometimes I got to have that flexibility just because it seems to make the most sense when all of us are dealing with an online class. And then at the end, I want to talk about, try to go quickly over the quiz that's coming up, and also talk about the carved biomorphic abstraction a little bit. So a lot of things to get through. So hopefully we'll have plenty of time to do that. And Jessica, please make sure you stop being sick. That being sick sucks. All right. I think what I would like to do is go ahead and start with the artist research. We'll watch that and then talk about it a little bit as soon as I can figure out how to share my screen. All right, can you guys see this? Or Tanis, can you see this?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to play a little bit. Please tell me, and then I'll pause it. And then Tanis, could you tell me if you can hear it?
All right.
So, by Hallie Bogdan.
I can hear that just fine.
Okay. All right, here we go. We're going to watch the whole thing. It's about 5 minutes.
Do Ho Sor. So, by Hallie Bogdan. Do Ho Sor is a South Korean artist born in 1962 who is known for large-scale fabric sculptures and architectural installations that explore themes of home, memory, and displacement. He earned his degrees from Seoul National University with a Bachelor and Master of Fine Arts in Oriental Painting, and later studied at the Rhode Island School of Design and Yale University. His work often draws from personal experiences, including his move from Korea to the U.S., and uses materials like polyester and silk to create portable ethereal replicas of spaces he has inhabited. He has exhibited at numerous major museums and biennales worldwide, including the Tate Modern, Whitney Museum of American Art, and the Guggenheim Museum. He also received the Ho-Am Prize in 2017, which is sometimes referred as the Korea's equivalent of the Nobel Prize. Fabric realities. Korean artist Do Ho-seo uses translucent fabric replicas of his homes to question the nature of home and monumentally explore how memories, identity, and culture are carried by individuals, particularly in the context of global mobility and displacement. His work, inspired by moving between Seoul and New York, uses this medium to highlight how personal experiences within spaces become important to identity even when the physical spaces are gone. Rubbing Loving Project Soul Home 2013-2022. This piece is a detailed full-scale replica of Do Ho-seo's family's traditional Korean hanbok house. The project was created by applying graphite to paper covering the exterior of his childhood house, a process described by Do Ho-seo as an act of love and devotion. The theme of this exhibition delves into the concepts of belonging, identity, and memory, and how spaces are imprinted with human energy and the passage of time. The rubbing loving process. The process of rubbing the paper against the building surfaces is a physically demanding and intimate act that reveals minute details and textures. Do Ho-seo describes the act as a form of caressing the surface, emphasizing the gentle devotional nature of the work despite its intensity. This technique, also known as fetish, allows Seo to document the physical data of the space and the memories associated with it. Another one of his works is the Genesis exhibition, Walk the House. This exhibition is open from May 1st to October 26, 2025, where it showcases 3 decades of Do Ho-seo's house, which includes large-scale fabric installations, sculptures, videos, and drawings exploring the themes of home, memory, and identity. The exhibition's title, Walk the House, reflects the concept of a portable home derived from traditional Korean architecture, which the artist translates into immersive, site-specific works. Another one of his works is a Paratrooper 2003 to Ongoing. This conceptual sculpture by Do Ho-seo, which features a stainless steel paratrooper figure connected by threads to a linen paper covered in over 3,000 signatures from his journals and guest books. The threads pulled like a parachute symbolize human relationship and lifelines, exploring themes of displacement, personal history, and identity, while the paratrooper represents a metaphor for surviving in a new environment. This work is a fusion of traditional and modern materials, with the signatures representing a collective force or burden that supports the individual. With a conversation with Do Ho-seo, in a conversation he had it with like a reporter, they explore his works on themes of identity, memory, and home, where he expresses through various sculptural forms like translucent fabric replicas of homes and interactive installations. He uses his fabric to make his homes portable. He collects the tension between individual and collective in his work, and the influences of his work is his migration between South Korea, New York, and London. And these are my works cited.
All right, I wanted to talk about this just a little bit, and I am so grateful for we've got some more people. I see Kim, you've made it, excellent, and Rachel, thank you very much for being here, guys. I am so grateful that this is the first one that was turned in, because I think they did a wonderful job, excellent job. And I wanted to make sure that everybody understood, you do not have to record your own voice doing this. You'll write out everything. If you're going to use another voice, you'll write out everything, and you can have somebody else read it while recording the voice. I believe that this particular video was done on, actually, I don't know what this one was done, but you can record it on Teams, where you start the Teams meeting with yourself, pull up the slideshow, and then start recording as you go through the slides with the microphone on. And I have had several students have a roommate or a family member read what they wrote as they go through the slides. And I've had a few people too find AI voiceovers on the internet. You don't have to clone yourself. I don't want you to clone yourself. I think that would be a pain in the neck. But there are a number of free things on the internet where you can record a bit of voice at a time, use cartoon voices or actors or whatever, whatever you want to do. I think probably the easiest route, if you don't want to record your own voice, is to have a friend or family member do it for you. So you do not have to record it in your own voice. I hope everybody understands that. But a couple of things that I really like is at the very end, this person, all their citations are correctly formatted. They're in alphabetical order, and each and every one has the accessed on date after it, that is really unusual. And I'm so grateful that they did it. That's one of the reasons why. But also just the amount of research that this person did, finding different things. Like there was an interview with a reporter, there were gallery reports, there were things that Do Ho-seo said about his own work. I thought that was illustrated a really good mix of sources, and the images that were used for the PowerPoint slides were really, really good. Now, one thing you do not need to do is you can have bullet points with a word or two, and then have your narrator read out everything that you want to say. You don't have to have everything written down on the page. This particular one, I thought they did a really terrific job. Does anybody, after seeing that PowerPoint, for those of you who are doing artist research, does anybody have any questions about it or observations?
Not really. It was really concise and really well made. Helps me to I guess put together exactly how concise or like how informative mine should be, because that's something I've been kind of struggling with. I've been trying to decide, do I need this? Is it not that important? Because I don't want it to be such a bloated presentation. So
Yeah, and I think that those are really good questions to ask yourself, because there's two presentations that were done in this class that stand out to me as being a little bit more work than normal. One I think I mentioned was like 32 minutes long, and that was way too much work. Another one was about 14 minutes long. It was about Anna Mendieta, and the person was just gobsmacked by what he saw her do. And he gave a full biography and everything. And this is what this person did was 5 minutes, 2 seconds long, and that is absolutely perfect. So 5 to 8 minutes, it would just hit the nail on the head. Everything about it I thought was really well done. So yeah, this is why, again, it's so nice that this was the first one turned in, because it's something that everybody can look at, reference, and follow too. And you can find it just on when you go and look up the video for today, just go back and look at the channel, and you can find it on our class channel. So yeah, I'm very grateful. Now we do have a peer critique and a self-critique. These are each, the peer critique is 4 minutes, and the self-critique is 4 minutes as well. So we're going to watch each of those. And the reason why these are important is that everybody needs to do one of each of these. And I have had somebody in the past, I've had like 2 or 3 people turn in both of these at the same time on one video, and that doesn't work. It needs to be 2 separate videos. And this person did that. I have not watched these, so let's watch them and see how the person did it. Give me just a second here as I set up the screen share again.
Bogdan, and I am critiquing somebody else's work. The work I'm going to be critiquing is Regan Turley with The Structure with the Skin. The description. Regan Turley is the artist. The name of the title of the work is Structure with the Skin. It was created October 10th, 2025, and it was created with popsicle sticks and translucent colored plastic sheets. It has, I think the content is rectangular prisms that was made throughout the whole entire thing. It has an abstract art style. The colors are bright and are varied with pink, blue, purple, and green. The lines are straight and angular. Texture appears smooth and translucent for the colored plastic and a more natural wooden texture for the popsicle sticks. The primary shapes are 3D, such as the rectangular prisms, and some of the other shapes form with the combination of the sticks and the plastic sheets. My first impression is the vibrant, contrasting colors and geometric interconnected structure. The overall effect is a playful construction in vibrant colors. The bright colors and geometric forms create a cheerful and dynamic mood. The artwork's elements are organized in a way that creates a dynamic balance and rhythm. The structure is asymmetrical, with different colored translucent boxes and wooden craft sticks, creating a sense of movement and tension. The repetition of the box-like forms and the wooden stick frames establishes a rhythm throughout the piece. The choices of materials, such as the translucent colored plastic and wooden popsicle sticks, have a big impact on the piece. The translucent plastic allows light to pass through, creating colors, shadows, and a sense of lightness. The simple wooden sticks provide a contrasting nature and structural element, making it seem both delicate and constructed. Our overall mood is achieved through the interplay of these elements. The bright, varied colors and the way light interacts with the translucent material creates a playful and vibrant mood. The dynamic and asymmetrical composition adds a sense of energy and movement, contributing to a feeling of liveliness and curiosity. The work appears to be accessible in its construction using simple and common materials like popsicle sticks. The artwork seems formal more than conceptual. Its primary focus seems to be on the interplay of the geometric shapes, lines, colors, and light. The piece reminds me of those like colored plastic version of those crayon boxes to hold your crayons. Yes, my thoughts have changed since my first impression. My first impression was that the work was a simple geometric sculpture made from craft materials. Upon looking closer, my feelings have changed as I've noticed more details and complexities. My mind changed because I examined the structure and noticed the intricate way the pieces are connected and the play of light through colored translucent panels. The shadows adds another layer to the piece, creating a sense of depth and form. The work has intrinsic value. The value lies in its aesthetic qualities and the skill needed to create it. The work communicates a sense of balance and complexity. It can be seen as a representation of how simple components can be combined to create something intricate and beautiful. This principle could have value to others by inspiring others to see potential in everyday objects and to see how beauty can be created out of these works. Hello, my name is Hallie Bogdan.
Actually, this is the second one that we want to watch too. But before moving on to that, did anybody see what this individual was doing? Did anybody recognize what this individual was doing as they were critiquing that artwork? Or I guess here, what they were doing? One thing that I noticed that I thought was really good is that they were going down the list of questions on that Tools of Artistic Critique page that I gave everybody. And they weren't asking the questions out loud, they were instead answering them. And they went through each and every question, which I thought was great. If you want to, you can make it more flowing, give it your own words and things like that. But I thought this was a really good example of a critique just by simply answering all the questions as they were looking. And I thought a couple of the comments that were really good was when they were talking about how their mind changed from the first impact to as they thought about it and looked at it more. And then I also thought it was really great to listen towards the end when they were talking about how the sculpture is valuable. You know, what's the intrinsic value for it. So I thought that all those were really good. So again, I'm really grateful that this is the first example of the peer critique. Did anybody else notice anything or want to comment on it?
Um, Before you said it, I was thinking that I also noticed that she was going through the tools of the artistic critique like one by one. I had them in my head, and so I was like, oh yeah, she's nailing all of those. So I did notice that too.
Well, what it makes for is a really solid outline for whatever you're doing. And you don't have to really, all you have to do is have that image in front of you with those questions and you've got your outline. So yeah, I agree. I thought it was well done. All right, we're going to watch the next one, and this is the self-critique. I want to remind people that this is really very successful when you go through the process pretending that it's the first time you've seen it and pretending that it is not yours. So let's see if Hallie does that.
And I'm going to be critiquing my own work. This structure was created by Hallie Bogdan. It is called Structure with a Skin. It was created October 10th, 2025, and the mediums used in it are plastic straws, wrap markers, and saran wrap. My first thing when I look at it is it's really colorful and it looks playful. The content that I see is a tetrahedron. It looks abstract. The colors I see is blue, red, yellow, green, purple, and pink. It's translucent. The lines are straight and angular. Texture is a mix of smooth, hard plastic and crinkled, translucent texture. The shape is tetrahedrons. It has vibrant colors in a complex geometric shapes is what I first look at. It is playful and dynamic. The sculpture's elements are organized to create a sense of dynamic movement and balance. It uses a lot of the principles of design. Two of them is rhythm and movement. The repeated triangular shapes connected in a chain-like fashion creates a sense of rhythm. The way the structure extends across the space suggests movement. It also has unity and variety. The piece uses a variety of colors and textures, such as the smooth straws and crinkled plastic. But these elements are unified by the consistent use of the triangular forms and the overall geometric shapes. The sculpture appears to have an asymmetric balance, with the forms distributed unevenly, but is in a way that feels stable and visually interesting. The effects of the material is, with the use of the brightly colored plastic straws and transparent plastic wrap gives the piece a lightweight feeling. The materials are common everyday objects, which makes the sculpture feel accessible and perhaps playful or childlike. The transparency of the plastic wrap allows light to pass through, creating interesting shadows and highlights and revealing the interior of the structure. The overall mood is with the bright, saturated colors of the straws, such as red, yellow, blue, green, and purple, creates a cheerful and energetic mood. The geometric open structure and the use of light filtering materials contribute to a feeling of lightness and fun. The work is highly accessible due to its use of common everyday material like straws. The construction seems simple enough for a viewer to understand. The piece has a strong formal quality, focusing on shape, color, and texture. The repetition of the triangular forms and the use of the bright colors are the key elements of this structure. The artist wanted to make something fun and is interesting to look at. When I look at the piece, it reminds me of both a playground and a stained glass. Yes, my thoughts have changed since I first looked at it. When I first looked at it, it just seemed bright and colorful. But now that I double look at, I can see all these different elements they use, such as the translucent wrinkled plastic with the very different colors. You can see the bunch of different colors that really contrast against the straws. Because if you look at it, they use different colors. The translucent colors have purple, pink, and like a dark green, while the straws have yellow, blue, red, and green. The aesthetic value. The use of the bright contrasting colors and the repetition of the tetrahedral shape creates a visually interesting and dynamic form. The interplay of light through the translucent color faces adds another layer of visual appeal. This demonstrates how simple shapes can be combined to create a large, more intricate structure. The work communicates ideas to structure, balance, and the potential for creativity in everyday materials. Wrap.
So what did you guys think about this one, this self-critique?
I think she did a good job, and that it was kind of like the other one where she was using terms and hitting questions that are on the list.
Yes, yes, excellent. And I thought this one, I wonder if this one was done second because it feels like it's a little bit more natural. You know, it flows a little bit smoother. But yeah, I really like that aspect as well. The other thing I noticed is this one, when they talked about it, they did not keep saying, I chose to do this or I did that. They pretended that it wasn't theirs. And I think that that's one of the things that really makes this successful when you do a self-critique. So yeah, I thought both of those were really well done. And Kim and Rachel, both of you, I think hit the nail on the head. Yeah, they went down, you know, they used those questions as their outline. And I think that that turned out really well. All right. Let's see. I want to show briefly, we have another wire sculpture that showed up, and I just want to share that with you guys really quick. And then I want to look at the other skin and structure sculptures, if that's all right. I'm sorry, okay, here we go. Okay, so this is something that you guys will have seen on your discussion boards. And this is the most recently finished wire sculpture, I believe. So I think it was, I just saw it today. But I wanted to look at it really briefly. And I think that I really like what this person has done. I love the fact that they've used several different kinds of texture quality for the wire. I think that looks really nice. I love the kind of playfulness looping the wire around the wings. I think that turned out really well. And then contrasted with the more solid neck and tail, and then the tighter loops for the body and the head. All that I think turned out really well. What I would like to see on this is one of the things I wanted people to do is make this freestanding. And I'm thinking with a tail like that and these legs, the person with just a little bit of repositioning the tail, looping it around a little bit and folding it back and then folding these legs forward, they could use the tail and the two legs as a tripod so that this thing is actually standing on its own. And I think that would make it very, very, very cool indeed. And to get some balance, so that it was well balanced, they could move the neck and the head and maybe move the wings a little bit, bend them kind of, so that the whole thing is a little bit more stable. But I think that turned out really well. So I wanted to make sure that everybody saw that. And now I want to, we're just going to look at the most recent ones that were turned in the structure and skin. This one, looking at this one, I think I really like how well defined the modules are, because it's obvious that they are tetrahedrons. And I think that this is a really fun choice for the skin, having that iridized plastic. Because even though on this one the skin is everywhere, it's still, you're kind of seeing through it, and which still allows for quite a bit of emphasis on the structure. Something that I would like to see that is different is this is a very stable object, and it does reach out into space as 5 tetrahedrons put together. But it would be really kind of fun to see like 3 more of these modules attached in other ways to make this a little bit more uneven. Right now, it feels really, really still. And as we saw with a lot of others, the 2 that we just saw in those critiques, it's a lot more entertaining for the viewer to have things be a little bit irregular. But I think that this solves the issue of the module really well. And I think even though the skin is covering everything because it is translucent with iridescence, it is a really creative take on finding that balance of structure and skin. Anybody want to say something about it, or anything that you notice about it, or can you guys see this?
We can't see it. I was just gonna say, are we supposed to be seeing the sculpture?
Oh, that is so aggravating. I thought I was sharing.
I think I know which one you're talking about, but yeah, we can't see it.
Okay. Okay. Here it is. Can you guys see it now?
Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry about that. I had done the thing and I thought it was working right. All right, so you can see what I'm talking about with the skin and the structure. What do you think about that? Even though the skin is covering everything, does it still feel pretty much like there's a balance because of the way it is, or the type of skin that was used?
Yeah, I really liked this one when she posted it. I liked the whatever material that is that she put on it, the iridescence of it. And I thought it was interesting how she did the lighting so that it showed off the skin, even though like it is completely see-through at the same time. It gives it like a really cool effect. And yeah, I thought it was interesting how she did it, and I really liked the skin that she chose.
All right, excellent. And we have different rules for each of the different assignments. And it's kind of fun when somebody is able to figure out what the assignment is about and play with those rules a little bit. And I think by using this particular kind of skin, they were able to solve the problem balancing the skin and the structure. So yeah, I agree with you. I think it turned out well. Now this one I think is really interesting because they made a lot of these modules, and then you have like this one that isn't quite the same. There isn't an awful lot of skin on this, but the skin is striking enough. I don't really feel that there's that much of a problem. It still feels to me like there's a pretty good balance. What do you guys think?
It's hard for me to put this in words because I'm still trying to figure out exactly what the words are myself. But I think it looks cool. But the very first thing I thought of when I saw it the first time was the shapes feel like they're kind of just plopped in at random instead of like planned in a position. Just kind of in a, what's the word? Like in an attempt to just explode it outwards and get fill as much of the space as it can, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it does. And um, personally, I don't really see a problem with that because it's kind of fun sometimes to see something that is as odd as this is with the very obvious tetrahedral shapes. It feels almost organic the way that they put it together. And I think that that's kind of fun. So yeah, I agree with you, Tanis. Exactly, and that's what I see too. And I don't have a problem with it. I do have OCD, and sometimes the OCD gets in the way of me appreciating things, but I think that this turned out well. Does the organic nature of it um, does that cause a little bit of tension in the viewers? Do you think?
Maybe. Not totally sure.
Do you think that's a bad thing, or is it an okay thing, or is it a good thing?
I don't think it's a bad thing at all because
Okay.
the way I see art, you might have seen this in whatever things I write down in the quizzes or in submissions or whatever. If art doesn't evoke a reaction out of you, I don't think it's good. So,
Okay. Okay. That's good. So if this, even if this is disturbing, it's still successful.
yes.
So being kind of explosive and stuff like that is not a bad thing. Personally, I don't find it disturbing, but I think I agree with you. It's always more interesting when something evokes a response. You know, as long as you're not giving the person motion sickness and making them vomit, I think it's great. And this evokes a reaction, and it's not a bad reaction because it involves the viewer, you know, and it gets you engaged. So yeah, very good. One thing I like about it is it feels to me like it's going to tip over. And that's always fun to see in a sculpture because that always creates a tension between the sculpture and the viewer. And I think this one is really interesting to me. And I'll tell you why. Um, this has seen something of an evolution, and I think that this version is more successful than the original version. One of the things that I like about it is there is a very definite module that is this flat kind of fan shape. And then the person combines these flat fans in a very three-dimensional way. And at first, I didn't really like that because I thought all the modules should be 3D. But the way that this person did it, I think is really well done. This it kind of startles me a little bit. I think it's kind of exciting to me because can you see that this kind of fan type shape is the module? There's a module here, there's a module there, and one of the things that is, like Tana said, it causes a little bit of tension is that the paper is not always missing from the exact same thing or doesn't look like it might be, which, and that is great too. And the fact that each one is attached at a slightly different angle, making it all three-dimensional, coming out at different angles, I think is kind of, it's really engaging. What do you guys think? Anybody want to respond to this one? Rachel and Tanis, you both said something about it. Kim, would you be able to, I know I'm putting you on the spot, I'm sorry. Would you be able to say something about this?
Yeah, I really love this one. Like the word I want to use is angelic. And it just, I don't know if that makes sense for anyone else, but it just feels angelic to me. And I really love the negative space and just all of the shapes. I love the flatness of the modules, and with them all put together, it's just very interesting, and I just really love it.
All right, excellent. Very good comments. Now, I know I'm putting you on the spot for this, Rachel, and I'm sorry. And if you don't want to say anything about it, that's fine. You don't have to. But would you like to comment on this?
Yeah, no, I'm happy to. Yeah, for this one, I in my head, I guess like when I originally read through the project, I don't know. I must have missed where like things were supposed to be like these three-dimensional shapes, and then as I was researching other shapes like online and stuff, and doing drawings of in a sketchbook, and I kept drawing these like kind of flat shapes, and I knew I wanted to use like a kind of translucent paper, and um, at first it was kind of like an experiment when I was cutting the sticks and trying to get angles right and stuff, and then um, I don't know, I was actually really happy with it at first. I was like, ah, this is turning out better than I thought, and then putting it together was because I wasn't sure exactly. I knew I wanted some spots to like fan out. The other thing I had in my head a lot was like the reading when I was creating this, in our quiz, and activating like the space around the structure. So I guess that was in my head a lot too, the way I wanted things to like extend out into space. Yeah, and so that was my main goal, was to create some modules that I could extend into space, and that's how it turned out.
All right, great. No, I think because there was an earlier iteration, wasn't there?
Oh, yeah, originally all the fans had the paper on it, and I did go like after I had created them, originally I was thinking like maybe I'll cut some pieces out because the way I made it, it's like a solid piece, but I thought because it was translucent in some spots, and then I would turn some spots over so you could see like the skeletal structure on the back, that maybe like it would work. And so then I just decided to do that. But yeah, I went back in and cut some pieces out, and I do like how it turned out with the cutout pieces. So
All right, excellent. Yeah, and I particularly like this little area here where you can see through, to behind it. I think that stuff like that is always kind of fun to see. So yeah, I think this turned out really well.
well, and for a second, after I cut them out and then took the photograph, I'm like, oh my gosh, you almost can't tell some spots are missing paper because of the white sheet behind it. So I was like, I hope that works out.
Yeah, it turned out really well.
Okay, thanks.
Now, if you guys see something that we've looked at before, let me know. Okay, this is one that I think is really building on a very interesting premise. There are three things that we talked about that make this assignment successful. One is creating identical modules. Another one is finding that balance of structure and skin. And the third one is stacking them, putting them together so that they activate space. And I think this does a good job of activating space. I think there's a little bit I don't think there's quite enough skin to balance it, but the only real issue with this one is that there is not a definable module. Because I don't know if it's a square like this. I don't know if it's kind of a triangular prism like this one. So this one I think is a really very interesting start, and I love the fact that it is activating space the way it does. But I would suggest for this person to look at this and kind of create a module, you know, a 3D module that they can replicate and repeat. And I don't think they have to rebuild stuff. I think they could take it apart and make the modules out of these using these rectangles. And I think it's kind of interesting cutting the skin diagonally like this on a couple of the surfaces. I think that's really fascinating. So I think that this is a really solid start. I think this is going somewhere. This one I think is a really good start too. It feels to me like it's very tiny. And I think in that case, I think there should probably be some more modules. They've chosen the tetrahedron, and I think that this is a really good start. I think that this would be really fascinating, making a couple more tetrahedra like this, and maybe sticking one right here to make that come out, and then coming towards the viewer a little bit over here. So maybe two more modules and stacking those on as well. But I think that this is a really solid start. I like the balance between skin and structure, but I would like to see a couple more modules attached to this so that, because it seems like we have something coming out here, we have something going away from the audience, and then I think it would be really nice to attach something, maybe like one of the edges is attached to this corner here and that stick there, and then they have a couple of tetrahedra coming out this way or something. I think so. I think this is really a solid start. Just needs to activate the volume of space just a little bit, a touch more. But I think that's really a good start. This is really an interesting one, and I don't know. I'm going to check something really quick here. I stopped sharing for just a second. I'm going to see if I can find another image. Okay. All right, I'm going to share that screen again. Okay, I think that this is a really solid start. I mean, it's almost there. I think this one is. One of the things I was checking was that it feels like this is not really reaching up to space, and I wanted to just check and see if there's another photo that showed that. I think on this one, if the person made another module and attached it right here so that they could rock this forward and have it stand up, that would nail everything. Because we have something that is based on tetrahedron, and there are some solid tetrahedra in here. They are a couple different sizes, but we also have partial ones right here that are missing a stick or two. And I don't really think that's a problem, but this does feel like it's a little bit too lateral or horizontal. And I think that that could be solved just by repositioning something or adding another module like right here so that it could be rocked forward and would stand up, reaching up and out a bit. And it might even be something as simple as removing this section here and adding it right here so it becomes like a third leg as a tripod and then standing it up on that. But I like the balance of skin and structure for the most part. Right up here, it feels like there's a little bit too much, but maybe that's just a view of the photo. And I like the solid and the pattern areas of the skin. So I think that this is almost there. It's looking really good. And I think this one is interesting to me. I think that it's a good start, but I would like the individual to reevaluate what they're trying to do with the module. Because if it's a fan, I think well, this is really flat. It looks like it's just laying down. And this is a 3D design class, so it really needs to be three-dimensional. And maybe an easy way to do that would be to take these modules and turn them into narrow, tall pyramids. And then stick the pyramid not point to point, but attach them side to side. Maybe one pyramid attaches to the another one at right angles. And that might solve the problem of turning this in three-dimensional, because right now it's not quite there, but I think it's a really interesting use of skin. And I'm thinking that if they do that with the pyramids, so that two of the faces on each of them have the skin on them, and then they attach them at right angles after they make the pyramids, I think that would really look cool. I think it'd be very interesting. The biggest difference between this and Rachel's is that Rachel's the flat fans were attached in a three-dimensional volume, so they went all sorts of different directions. And I think that this person could go that route too if they wanted to, attach them at different angles and stuff like that. So there's a couple different ways that they could resolve that issue of making it reach into space. I really like this one. I think the start is really nice. I like how the face is kind of solid on a couple of them and cut out on other and missing on others. I think that this is a really solid start. What I would like to see, though, is this still seems to be almost planar. It's not reaching out a lot of different angles. I say that, yeah, it's reaching out this way to the left and this way to the right, but you could tip it over and it would remain kind of flat. What I'd like to see on this is I don't think anything needs to be repositioned necessarily. But what I would like to see is like another module like this attached at a weird angle right over here. And maybe another module attached at a right angle on this one or something like that, just so that it activates that volume of space around it a little bit. I like the fact that the skin is creatively applied. And I like the fact too that it's basically solid colors. It reminds me a little bit of Bauhaus style sculpture. And I think this is really fun. Now, the person photographing this did not photograph it in the same kind of setting that we've been talking about, but because the background is so consistent, I don't mind that. It still drives the attention to the sculpture. So I think that this, so the photo itself is working out pretty good, but I would like to see, and even if the blue and yellow right here on the left, if it was attached at a different angle, so that maybe that part was pointing towards the back and this was pointing towards the front or the other way around, that might be able to solve it too. Or even separating these two from the red and attaching it to the red right where the blue and yellow are joined and changing the angle. That would resolve the issue too. I think that would be interesting. This actually sculpture has gone through a couple iterations, and we've been talking about modules and activating space and everything like that, and structure and skin. I'm thinking that this is looking pretty good. The module is just a simple triangle, but there's like 20 or 30 of them, and they're joined at several different angles. I'm thinking that this would be even more successful if the module was actually like a tetrahedron or something like that. Or even if it was glued together at even more angles from each other, because it's still like these three, these two, and these six are all flat, kind of facing the viewer, and they're all attached at different skew points, but the surfaces are flat. I'm wondering. I don't know, this is almost there. And I'm thinking that attaching these so that these two triangles, for example, are at different angles, and attaching these three so they're three different angles, or these at different angles, I think that might resolve the issue, even though they don't have that three-dimensional module that we were talking about at the very beginning of this exercise. I'm thinking that it might work if these are attached rotating a little bit or something. I think that that might be look really interesting. You know, maybe these three, instead of being flat like this, are attached on the edge so that they come out like feathers or something. Or I don't know. I'm thinking that this is coming along. I think this is looking better. I'm thinking this is one of the ones that we probably looked at before. And I think this one needs just a couple more pieces of skin, which is just a weird sentence. It's a sentence that I didn't ever think I'd say. But I think that like it looks like each of the tetrahedra have just one piece of skin on them. I think if most of them had two pieces of skin on them, this would look really good. Because I think it resolves a lot of the issues that we've been talking about. What do you guys think about this one?
I think it's so cool. I really like the way that it activates the space around it, and the shadows really add to it as well. Yeah, I love the points, like the like parallel pointed lines that come off of it. Just really adds to it. I just think it's really well done, really well planned.
All right, excellent. And one thing that I like is it is using a very strong module. You know, the module shape, it's all based on the tetrahedron again, but it's doing different things with it. You know, like that the one on the far left of the three student examples, where it was the milk crate, but they have different variations on it. They're doing the same thing. And like you said, having the skin, one of the skin types being these parallel toothpick type structures, and having another one being white paper. I think that makes for a really interesting dynamic, having those two things. And Tanis was saying earlier about how things feel, sometimes it felt like organic or almost chaotic, how things are put together. I think this gives you that sense of tension. I think it's very interesting. I think it activates space, like you just said, it was Kim, right? I think it activates space with what did I do? Sigh. Okay. I ruined my view, but it activates space with this style of skin with the toothpicks coming out, but it also activates space with the way that all of these things kind of reach out in different directions. So yeah, I think that turned out well. This one is really interesting to me. I think it's fascinating. It looks like to me it's another one of its variations on the tetrahedron. I think that this might, I like how this comes out this way and it's, you know, it's not all balanced. It's not formally balanced at all. I do think it might need a little bit more skin. But I'm going to see, hold on just a second. I'm going to see if there's another view. Okay, there is another view. Okay, this view I think is a little bit better because it does show the skin better. I think that one's, this is really interesting to me. I'm sorry for putting you on the spot, Kim, but could you talk about this at all? I'm gonna share the screen again so everybody can see it.
Yeah, I did. I think I did 6 modules, and they're the tetrahedron again, but coming off of the side, there's like on each one there's a square frame, and then that side
Yes,
of
right
the
here.
frame,
See that?
yeah, like comes up kind of like a flagpole. So they're kind of weird modules. Um, I did 3 different skins. Um, yeah, I don't know.
I really like this photo because I think because this one, it looks, I like this photo better because it does show that there's enough skin on it. That first photo, it doesn't look like there's a lot of skin on it, but this one, I think it does show that. And it's kind of fun to see that shadow in the background. Where did you photograph this?
I just did it in my living room. I put a sheet over, we have like a banana chair. So I put a sheet over a banana chair and I used my plant lights to light it.
Because this is a really nice photo. It turned out really well. Yeah, I'm fiddling with something. I'll be right back with you in just a second. Okay. All right. Okay, we're looking at the next one. So Kim, I think that I love that second photo. I think that really shows it the way it should be seen. Nicely done. Now this one I think is a really interesting take on this. It feels like it's more of a castle kind of shape. I think the module might be like this rectangular structure with a pyramid on top, and I just see 2 of those. I think this person, it would be really nice to see more actual modules that are recognizable as modules and attached at different angles. Because it looks like this is pretty much straight and flat with a little bit over here. I think that this would really benefit if this is the module, having them come at pointing out at different directions or pointing in, just different, something like that, to kind of activate all the volume of space around it. And I think it looks a little bit empty right through here. And maybe that's a function of the angle of the shot. So I would suggest that this person move it around and see if it looks better and more fitting to the assignment with different angles of photography, photographing. And maybe that's all the solution it needs. Like with Kim's, that first shot looks very different than the last shot we looked at. This one I think is really fun. This is also dealing with that translucent skin, and you can see the module is that milk crate kind of thing, but they've also kind of added a couple tetrahedra, and I see that's kind of interesting. That doesn't bother me at all. And the way that they did this, it reminds me a little bit of like an alien water slide almost, but I really like how this is joined together. It looks like it's almost like a Mobius strip loop kind of thing. And I think that's really fascinating. What do you guys think about it? Anybody want to talk about it? Tanis or Rachel?
Yeah, I'll talk about it. Yeah, I like the way that she put the structure together. It does like the background pieces are moving up, like it's like going in like a loop, and this side's coming across, and then it's coming down towards you, and then up, and it causes your eye to follow the structure around and up and back, and I thought that was pretty cool, at least from this angle of her photograph, and I do like those little whatever her skin is. I like how it's translucent, and so you can see the structure through it, but it still gives a feel of like a solid skin kind of. And I liked the colors that she chose. And yeah, I think she did a good job.
All right, excellent. Very good observations. I also like the longer you look at the photo, the more you realize how much of the shadow is colored by the translucent skin, which is kind of fun to see that shadow too. Yeah, excellent comments. This one, I don't know if we can see, it doesn't look like we can see the files. Okay, so. If you know you turn something in and I give it a 0, a lot of the times look at the note, because it's going to be, this is the wrong assignment, or it's in a file that I can't read. So just be mindful of that. All right, it looks to me that this is, the module is kind of like a narrow pyramid kind of thing. And I think this is a really good start. I think it's really interesting having the index cards there with the lines that you can see on the inside. But I do think that, this is stable, but I think it would be really benefit from having like maybe 2 more modules where one comes out and points towards us at the audience a little bit and doesn't touch the ground coming off this way where my mouse is pointing, and maybe another one attached right here at an angle or something, at a different angle. I think because this is starting, but I do think it needs another couple modules. And I think it does need to activate space a little bit more, but I think this is a really, really solid start. It's looking pretty good. All right, so we've gone through each of those. And if you do need to go back and revisit this and then turn it in, I have held off grading, and I'll be grading it by this weekend. But like I said, at any point, if you want to redo, rework, touch it up or whatever, and resubmit, do that, because it will only make your grade better. All right. I do want to, we have about 20 minutes left. I want to introduce the next project module that we're working on. It's the carved biomorphic abstraction. And I'm going to introduce it a little bit. I want to go through the quiz with you. We're dealing with something called abstraction, and I'm hoping to have some time to go over that. And then next week, you do have 2 weeks from now before this is due. So next week, we're going to talk about it more, and you guys can look at all the background stuff, try to get the quiz done, all that kind of stuff. Abstraction, there's 2 kinds of abstraction. There's straight up abstraction, and then there's non-objective abstraction. And I want to talk about a little bit about the difference there. Biomorphic means having to do with something organic. And morphic usually means change. Bio means life. And so we're talking about organic life is what we're using as our inspiration. There's, I think everybody got 2 blocks of foam in their kit, a larger one and a smaller one. You're going to be carving the larger one. And I want you to maximize that as much as possible. And I do have a video where I give a demonstration And I think that video is attached to the actual assignment. But I would like you guys, before Sunday, watch these 3 videos. There's 5, 2.5 minutes, and 6 minutes. And it does talk about this kind of thing. If we look at this image, this is right now considered the oldest anthropomorphic sculpture that has been discovered. This thing is absolutely ancient. It looks to me like it's intended to be like a lion person, you know, a human being morphing into a lion shape because of the shape of the head. But some of the things I want you to look at are, there's not a one-to-one correspondence between this and an actual object, or even a grouping of actual objects. It gives impressions, like this bump here can be read as an ear. These 2 bumps can be read as ears. This forward pointing bump might read as the snout of an anthropomorphized lion, which is why it has its name. These are kind of arm forms, torso form, leg form, but they're all simplified. They're all using a lot of the natural shape of the materials that were used, I'm thinking. And these structures that make it up serve to, what's it called? Abstract the actual form. And this video talks about it quite a bit more. But this is the kind of shape I want people to be aware of. Or actually, the shapes and forms inside this thing are the kind of shapes we want to work with, where they're not angular, they're not robotic, but they feel like they're modeled after life or elements of life. And I want to share with you a slideshow that I've made. We'll talk about it really quick. But these 2 videos, definitely watch this. Again, we're going to go over more of this next week. But while we're talking about what biomorphic is. So I want to see if we can get to this. All right, do you guys see these slides? Or this slide? It should say 1 and tree.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Now, would you say this is more naturalistic or more abstracted?
I would say it's more naturalistic.
Yeah, it is. It looks like it could very well be something that you could see out a window. Very much a tree. Which brings us to something my grandpa always said, if you can't see it out a window, or it's not art, and if you can't whistle to it, it's not music. And that's based on something that Plato said, which was art imitates nature. Have you guys ever heard that short phrase before? Art
Yes.
imitates nature. All right, that is an incomplete quote from Plato. He did say that. I believe it is either in his Republic or Phaedo, dialogue with Phaedo. But that phrase, the rest of it is, and nature is a manifestation of the divine. So the whole quote is, art imitates nature, and nature is a manifestation of the divine. So if the divine shares its will, and that is shown to us through nature, and art imitates that, we're not just imitating nature, we're imitating that process. So art should be a manifestation of our will as well, or our imagination, our thoughts. So we shouldn't feel combined, or we shouldn't feel constrained to only show things the way that everybody else in the world will see them. Since we're the ones who are making it, we have a right, and I would say we have the challenge and the responsibility when we make something to show it the way that only we can see it. So when we make a tree, I don't feel we need to feel constrained. We need to be constrained to make it a tree that everybody else sees as a tree as well. So that's just my little 2 bits. But so that was pretty naturalistic. Would you say that this is more naturalistic or more abstracted? I would say that this is more naturalistic as well. This is a painting of the Hudson River School. Is one of the. It was the first art movement that was intrinsically American, where people are combining both the romanticism of the early 19th century with realism of the early 19th century, and they were doing it in the American landscape. So you get this beautiful, powerful presence of nature where the trees and stuff and the mountains feel so naturalistic you can almost smell them. And then the human beings, you look like here, the evidence of human occupation. We have a little blob of color right there. And we only think it might be a human being because of the context with domestic animals and it's about the right size. Or you get this little blob of color back here. The only way you have a clue that that might be human is with the supposition that the shadow next to it is a boat. You know, but you look at these trees in the these bushes in the foreground, these trees right here, these trees right there, and the mountains, everything just breathes organic life. I think it's a really powerful piece and it's a beautiful painting. Now we get to this. What would your reaction be if you actually saw a tree that looked just like this in nature? Would that make you comfortable or would it make you freak out?
Yeah, probably think I'm on drugs or something.
Yeah, exactly. It's no longer naturalistic. It's become stylized. In nature, you're not going to see every leaf perfectly flat like that, and every flower either perfectly head on or at a perfect side view like this one. All the birds aren't going to be in perfect, poses like this. And you're not going to have little tufts of grass that look just exactly like this. This is where we start going from realism on the spectrum to abstraction. We're stylizing it. We're starting to simplify it a little bit. We go to this image. Again, the question is, if you saw that, can everybody easily identify this as a tree? Would everybody agree that that green thing is a tree?
Yes.
Now, if you saw that in nature, Kim, would it make you run screaming away? If you
I'd
saw
be
a tree,
confused. Yeah,
what's that?
I'd be very confused. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Now we're starting to get into the realm of real abstraction. So this is stylization, but it's simplified to the point where it is no longer naturalistically a tree, but we can still identify it as a tree. It is just the silhouette of a tree. We have the root ball down here. I believe that this is the New Hampshire state flag. This represents the Tree of Liberty. And the field of red is traditionally associated with blood because the state of New Hampshire, one of the phrases that keeps coming back up throughout the history of the state is the Tree of Liberty. The roots of the Tree of Liberty must occasionally be nourished with the blood of patriots. So, which is really interesting, but it says an awful lot about the early American colonists that revolted from England. Now, can anybody see the tree in this? This is kanji, it's Japanese, and it is a pictograph representing a tree. Can anybody see where the tree is?
Yeah.
What part of the tree is this?
The trunk.
Yes, exactly. And this is going to be the branches of the horizon line, and this is going to be the slope, overall slope of those branches. Just like here, we have the diagonal slope right here. We have the vertical trunk. We have the root ball right, or the ground right here. And this is simplified to the point where if you don't have the context, knowing that it's a tree, it's almost impossible to figure it out. This is what abstraction looks like. Now, right here, this is another kind of abstraction. Can you guys see the three trees in this? I will help. Here's one tree, here's one tree, and here's another tree. So there's three trees, and they're basically defined by vertical strokes of green with a little stroke at the bottom, and that's it. This is, again, almost entirely abstracted. So the difference with what happens from naturalism to abstraction is we go through stylization, simplification, super simplification to only the barest essentials. And it's almost impossible to tell what it is without context. Now, keeping in the theme that I've established already, what do you think this is an image of? This is by Pete Mondrian, and it's actually a landscape. Can anybody see the landscape?
No.
Pete Mondrian started off as an impressionist, and getting into the 19th century or 20th century, one of the things that really bothered him a lot was industrialization and confusionifying of the landscape. There were wires everywhere, there were people everywhere. It was just confusing. And so he parsed everything down to only vertical and horizontal lines and adding one of four colors. And the four colors were red, yellow, blue, and green. And that was it. This is a horizon line right here. These lines this is actually a view of a park. These lines represent trees. This is the clouds up in the sky, and these are the paths that people walk on. And this is a pond. Isn't that interesting? If you have that kind of context, is it almost to the point where you can almost see it as a landscape? Knowing what he was thinking. And before you answer that, I want you to look at this. These are all done by Pete Mondrian. So this is his expressionistic image of a tree, and these are all the same tree, believe it or not. And this one, this looks like very much like Vincent van Gogh kind of style, where you have real splashes or dots of color. You can see the branches. Yeah, we can see that this is a tree, but it's abstracted. The colors aren't quite naturalistic, but it's really vibrant. We get right here, he's leached out a lot of color. He's continued lines, he's simplified lines, but you can still kind of see the tree. Here's the trunk. Looks to me like it's the same tree, but from the opposite side of from the opposite side of the tree. So we have these swooping lines. Here he's simplifying it even more. The colors, they're all tones, they're all neutral tones, kind of a pink one, brown one, blue one, but they're all neutral tones. And the lines here are starting to mirror each other, where he's almost more interested in the lines than he is in fabricating branches. But you can still see the relation. Can you guys still see the relations between this tree, this version of the tree, and this version of the tree? You still see how those are related?
Yes.
Yes.
And then we move down to here, and I put these in chronological sequence, by the way. Right here, I think you can see a direct relationship between this and this just because of the colors that are being used. He's using the same color scheme. But here, you can see where he's simplifying it down to just horizontal and vertical lines. And then here, he's simplifying it even more. And without knowing it's a tree, I mean, right here, without knowing it's a tree, it's almost impossible to tell what it is. Here, it is completely impossible to tell what it is. There's no way of knowing. And then when we get to this one, which is the most recent of these six, he has simplified it down to the point where it is almost impossible to tell, or it is completely impossible to tell what it is unless you have the context. If we say that maybe this is a trunk, like over here, maybe this is where the sunlight is reflecting off of these branches, maybe this is where the branches are a little bit smaller, the sunflower. I mean, we can make up stories about it, but this is abstraction to the point where it bears very little resemblance to the original tree at all. And I think that's really fascinating. But yeah, he was a landscape artist, but without those clues, it's almost impossible to tell. And I think, and that's an extreme that I don't want you guys to really have to get to. I'm gonna share this again. I'm sorry, I closed it out too soon. What we're going for on this spectrum is right in this range between these two, where we still have the same organic lines like the tree, but we get to the point where without being told it's a tree, you really don't know. And so as you guys are reading through this material and thinking about it, I want you to think about biomorphic shapes as being things like teeth or the ends of bones or succulent plants or leaf structures or twigs, driftwood, undersea coral, snail shells, all those kinds of things. But I want you to find, look for shapes, like I say here, sea urchins, conch shells, gourds, seed pods, egg sacs, hooves, things like that. But I want you to find shapes within those structures that are interesting to you and combine them. So maybe see what it looks like when you combine shapes from a banana with succulent leaves. Look through what these are, and we'll go over more of this next week. I'm sorry, we don't have a lot of time to look at the quiz. I rambled on a little bit too much. So what I'm going to say is, don't worry about the quiz being late if you haven't already taken it. We'll talk about more about it and go over it on Wednesday. And if you do want to take it now, go for it. Go ahead and do that. And we'll talk about it on Tuesday or Wednesday, excuse me, because we meet on Wednesday. And I do want to go through it with everybody, but all the answers will be in the book. And I believe it's chapters 4 and 13. Yes, 4 and 13. So I would suggest very strongly, go ahead and take the quiz. I do want you to watch all those videos as well. And then we'll talk through the quiz and talk about your experience taking the quiz on Wednesday. Right? Does that sound okay with everybody? You can see, I hope everybody who's turned stuff in can see how concerned I am about due dates and things like that. I would recommend, let's see, I want you to go ahead and watch those videos, do the artist research or artist background thing, responding to the artists that you see in this module, and take the quiz. And we'll go over the quiz on Wednesday. And then you can, if you haven't taken it or if you've missed some, then retake it after our meeting on Wednesday. And I think that would be good. Is everybody okay with that?
Yes, sir.
All right, excellent, good. Was it helpful to go through the structure and skin, look at everybody's in the class?
Very much so.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
All right, excellent. Now, like I said, I haven't finished grading those. I've graded about half of them that have been turned in, and then I stopped and I wanted everybody to see everything that had been turned in tonight. And so I'll finish grading those in the next couple of days. But again, the grades are not permanent. If I say, oh, this, I suggest making these kinds of changes and stuff like that, make those changes and resubmit it. When it's resubmitted, I almost always get the notification. If I don't grade it right away, email me and remind me, hey, I resubmitted it, and then I'll take care of it. All right, guys, thank you so much for being with me tonight. It's always a good time with you folks here so we can talk about things, and please remember, you can always resubmit, change things, resubmit with new answers and things like that. I am really impressed with the critiques that I've seen and that first annotated bibliography. And again, when you narrate, it does not have to be your voice. Somebody else can read what you write down. Or if you have access to an AI voice reader, you can use that. I would not recommend going through the trouble of cloning your own voice. Don't do that at all. Use a neighbor or a friend or a family member or a slow running stranger, and or put it into an AI reader with a cartoon voice or something like that. All right, folks, you guys have a good week and weekend. Oh, maybe I should ask any final questions before we separate?
I don't have any.
Okay.
I
All
don't
right.
think so.
Okay. How about you, Rachel? Are you good?
Yeah, I think I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, excellent. All right, guys, we'll see you next Wednesday. In the meantime, be safe, be healthy, don't get sick.
Yeah, thank you.
All
Have a
right.
good weekend.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we'll see you guys.
Bye.
Bye.